Welcome. I want you to take the time to watch this entire presentation and think about it, as it may open your eyes to some very important things. We are going to look at the power of Yahweh through His prophecies. There are thousands of prophecies in the Holy Scriptures. Here we are only going to focus on the book of Revelation. Now, before we get started, there are a few things I want to talk about. One is that there is no other book, religious book, historian, fortune teller, etc. that can accurately tell the future thousands of years in advance, or at all for that matter. Now, the first thing people say is Nostradamus. I have read Nostradamus inquiring on just this topic, and what I found in Nostradamus' writings were extremely vain predictions. If you have read it, you know what I'm talking about. If you have not, I challenge you to watch this study. Maybe study a little more of Yahweh's prophecies on your own and then read Nostradamus' writings, and you will probably laugh and wonder how anybody could have bought into this idea. I was there before. The propaganda on the History Channel had me thinking Nostradamus was authentic, until I studied it for myself, that is. I am going to give one of Nostradamus' predictions out of his book in case you doubt what I say. Sooner than later you will see great changes made, extreme horrors and vengeances. For as the moon is thus led by its angel, the heavens draw near to the balance. Sooner than later, so no time frame or order of events, horrors and vengeances. Wow, who could have predicted that there would be war/killing? So I think you get my point. I opened his book randomly and chose this. They are all equally vague. Another thing people say is, there are people making those prophecies come true. This is easy to say when you have no real knowledge of Yahweh's prophecies. However, when you understand Yahweh's prophecies just a little, it becomes tough to believe this false belief. One last thing I want to touch on before we start is a common question and problem people have. Why do bad things happen to good/innocent people? The answer is so simple that most people won't accept it, and a lot of teaching these days leads one away from the solution to the problem. I will answer this question after this study is over, so we can get going now. Know that there are some things here that are disturbing, but all of these things are realities in the world today. Know also that the most disturbing content is kept out of this presentation. There is enough to get the point across, as not to tickle the ears, but to tell the truth. Revelation 6:1-8. Now I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard one of the four living creatures saying with a voice like thunder, "Come and see." And I looked, and behold, a white horse. He who sat on it had a bow, and a crown was given to him, and he went out conquering and to conquer. When he opened the second seal, I heard the second living creature saying, "Come and see." Another horse, fiery red, went out, and it was granted to the one who sat on it to take peace from the earth, and that people should kill one another. And there was given to him a great sword. When he opened the third seal, I heard the third living creature say, "Come and see." So I looked, and behold, a black horse, and he who sat on it had a pair of scales in his hand. And I heard a voice in the midst of the four living creatures saying, "A quart of wheat for a denarius, and 3 quarts of barley for a denarius. And do not harm the oil and the wine." When he opened the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the fourth living creature saying, "Come and see." So I looked, and behold, a pale horse. And the name of him who sat on it was Death, and Hades followed with him. And power was given to them over a fourth of the earth, to kill with sword, with hunger, with death, and by the beasts of the earth. NKJV. The four horsemen of the apocalypse. This is a term I am sure we have all heard, but much more important than having heard it is, do you understand it? Do you have any idea what it means? That is what the four horsemen are. Why is it that the large majority of churches, gatherings, congregations, etc. never teach on this topic? Most don't even touch the book of Revelation at all. The Messiah gave this revelation to mankind for a reason. He didn't give it to the world so it could be ignored. And why is it that the pastors, or shepherds of the flock don't lead the flock to the words of the Messiah? Most people say, "No man knows the day, so why watch?" This is the exact opposite of what Yahshua says. Matthew 24:42, therefore watch. For you do not know what hour your ruler will come. First, if you say you follow the Messiah, you must agree and follow what he says. If you do the exact opposite and think you are saved, you are delusional. Second, if you don't understand why he said to watch, read Matt 24:36-51 and 25. 1-30, it is explained multiple times. So we see that we are told to watch so we will see it coming and make the right preparations. Spiritually, mentally, and physically. While I cannot make you prepare, in this study let us dwell on the reality of the world together. 1 Thessalonians 5:20, do not neglect prophecies. And I looked, and behold, a white horse. He who sat on it had a bow, and a crown was given to him, and he went out conquering and to conquer. NKJV, a white horse. There is another part of Revelation that mentions a white horse. Revelation 19:11-16, and I saw heaven opened, and behold, a white horse, and he who sat upon him was called Faithful and True, and in righteousness he judges and makes war. His eyes were as a flame of fire, and on his head were many crowns. And he had a name written that no man knew, but he himself. And he was wrapped in a tallit dipped in blood, and the name of him is called Yahshua, the salvation of Yahweh. And the armies in heaven, clothed in fine linen, white and clean, followed him upon white horses, and out of his mouth goes a sharp, two-edged sword, that with it he should strike the nations. And he will rule over them with a rod of iron. And he treads the winepress of the fierceness and wrath of Almighty Yahweh. And he has on his tallit and on his banner a name written, King of Kings and Ruler of Rulers. Because of this, many people think that this white horse from Revelation 6:2 is Yahshua. There is a number of similarities. White horse, crown and conquering. But let us slow down a bit and consider another possibility. This first one who sat upon the white horse had a bow, which represents power. But there is no mention of him actually being the Messiah or being faithful and true as the real Messiah is described. The Messiah's return is not until after all the seals, trumpets and vials. Also it is the Messiah himself who opens all 7 seals, which include all 4 horsemen. No, this first white horse is not the Messiah, it is an impostor, portraying himself to be holy. Remember, all the seals, trumpets and vials are judgments, plagues, evil powers or things of this nature, and only after they have all been loosed will the Messiah return. So who could this impostor be? 1 Yochanan, John 2:18, little children, this is the last hour. And as you have heard that the anti-Messiah will come, even now there are many anti-Messiahs. By this we know that this is the last hour. An anti-Messiah is one who is against the Messiah, against what he stands for and what he teaches. But remember, this white horse is trying to act like the real Messiah. A counterfeit Messiah impostor who acts holy but in reality is not. First, is there anyone on earth who claims to be in the place of the Messiah? Second, are their acts holy? This is from the original Catholic Encyclopedia Volume 12, Pope, a variant of Father in Classical Latin. Papist, the title Pope, once using with far greater latitude, is at present employed solely to denote the Bishop of Rome, who in virtue of his position as successor of St. Peter is the chief pastor of the whole Church, the Vicar of Christ upon earth. Besides the bishopric of the Roman Diocese, certain other dignitaries are held by the Pope, as well as the Supreme and Universal Pastorate. He is Archbishop of the Roman Province, Primate of Italy and the adjacent islands, the sole Patriarch of the Western Church. The Church's doctrine as to the Pope was authoritatively declared in the Vatican Council in the Constitution Pastor Eternus. Let us look deeper into this title, Vicar of Christ. This is from the Original Catholic Encyclopedia Volume 15, Vicar of Christ, a title of the Pope implying his supreme and universal primacy both of honor and of jurisdiction over the Church of Christ. It is founded on the words of Divine Shepherdess St. Peter, "Feed my lambs, feed my sheep," by which he constituted the Prince of the Apostles guardian of his entire flock in his own places, making him his vicar and fulfilling the promise made in Matt 16:18 and 19. In the course of ages other vicarial designations have been used for the Pope, as Vicar of St. Peter and even Vicar of the Apostolic See, but the title Vicar of Christ is more expressive of his supreme headship of the Church on earth, which he bears in virtue of the commission of Christ and with vicarial power derived from hymnos and assent. The third appeals for his power to remove bishops to the fact that he is Vicar of Christ. He also declares that Christ is given such power only to his vicar Peter and his successors, and states that it is the Roman Pontiff who is the successor of Peter and the Vicar of Jesus Christ. The title Vicar of God used for the Pope by Nicholas III is employed as an equivalent for Vicar of Christ. Papal claims to authority. Let us consider a few scriptures while reading this content. Revelation 6:2 And the crown was given to him. Here you see the coat of arms for the Vatican City-State. Take note of the crown on top, a symbol of papal authority. It is a triple-tiered crown that is also called tiara or trino in Latin. 2 Thessalonians 2:4 tells us, who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called God or that is worshipped, so that he sits as God in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. NKJV. Concerning the extent of papal dignity, authority or dominion and infallibility. 1. The Pope is of so great dignity and so exalted that he is not mere man but as it were God and the Vicar of God. 13. Hence the Pope is crowned with the triple crown as King of heaven and of the earth and of the lower regions. 18. As to papal authority, the Pope is as it were God on earth, sole sovereign of all the faithful of Christ, chief King of kings, having a plenitude of unbroken power entrusted by the omnipotent God to govern the earthly and heavenly kingdoms. Let us consider Acts 5:29. We must obey Yahweh rather than men. 30. The Pope is of so great authority and power that he is able to modify, declare or interpret even divine laws. Source: Lucius Ferraris Papa in his Prompta Bibliotheca Canonica. Revelation 13:18. Here is wisdom. Let him who has understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. First, let us consider what this title on the Pope's crown says. Vicarius Filii Dei. Vicarius means substituting for or in place of. Filii means Sunday, means God. So what we have is a crown proclaiming that the human who wears it is in the place of the Son of God. Next, let us count the number of the beast. As the scripture tells us, we will add up the numerical value of the letters on this crown. You will get 666, and you can do this in English, Latin or Hebrew, and we'll get 666 each time. Matthew 23:9 and 10. And you must not pray to or worship any man on earth as a father, for you have only one Father, who is in heaven. Latin Papa, from Greek papus, father. The title, since about the 9th century, of the Bishop of Rome, the head of the Roman Catholic Church. It was formerly given, especially from the 3rd to the 5th century, to any bishop and sometimes to simple priests as an ecclesiastical title expressing affectionate respect. It is still used in the East for the Orthodox Patriarch of Alexandria and for Orthodox priests. See also Papacy. The Annuario Pontificio, the official directory of the Holy See, describes the office of the Pope by the following titles: Bishop of Rome, Vicar of Jesus Christ, Successor of the Prince of the Apostles, Supreme Pontiff of the Universal Church, Patriarch of the West, Primate of Italy, Metropolitan Archbishop of the Province of Rome, Sovereign of the State of Vatican City, Servant of the Servants of God. A title Pope or Papa, abbreviated PP, is officially used only as a last solemn style. Pope. Encyclopedia Britannica. Encyclopedia Britannica Ultimate Reference Suite. Revelation 6:2. A white horse. He who sat on it in Revelation 19:11. The real rider of the white horse is described in this manner. And I saw heaven opened, and behold, a white horse, and he who sat upon him was called Faithful and True. Let us take a look at some of the traits of this impostor and his religious system. Papal attended received male prostitutes in Vatican. While please listen to wiretaps during a corruption investigation, they found phone calls by Angelo Baldacci, an ex-head of Italy's Public Works Council, prearranged meetings with male prostitutes. They had to be tall and virile. The Vatican was rocked by a sex scandal reaching into Pope Benedict's household after a chorister was sacked for allegedly procuring male prostitutes for a papal gentleman-in-waiting. One must know that a gentleman of His Holiness, sometimes also called papal gentleman, is a lay attendant to the Pope and his papal household. As such, he has a highly regarded position and they can move about the Vatican freely. An interesting addendum is the fact that Baldacci is also a senior advisor of what is known as the Congregation for the Evangelization of Peoples, a department that oversees all missionary activity for the Roman Catholic Church throughout the world. Vatican hit by gay sex scandal. The Vatican has been thrown into chaos by reports that one of the Pope's ceremonial ushers, as well as a member of the elite Vatican choir, were involved in a homosexual prostitution ring. The tapes appeared to record Angelo Baldacci, a gentleman of His Holiness, negotiating with Thomas Chinedu Ehime, a 29-year-old Nigerian Vatican chorister, about men he wanted brought to him for sexual purposes. Baldacci was allegedly paying €2,000 for each man he met, according to the Irish Times. Pope Benedict endorses condom use for male prostitutes only. Pope Benedict XVI says in a new book that condoms can be justified for male prostitutes. Benedict said that condoms are not a moral solution, but he said in some cases, such as for male prostitutes, they could be justified in the intention of reducing the risk of infection. Benedict called it a first step in a movement toward a different way, a more human way of living sexuality. There may be a basis in the case of some individuals, as perhaps when a male prostitute uses a condom, where this can be a first step in the direction of a moralization, a first assumption of responsibility. Benedict said these are just a few news articles. We didn't even touch on the child molestation and many other abominable acts that the Vatican carries out. But know this, the reality is 1,000 times worse than this. Read Malachi Martin's books or listen to Alberto Rivera. Both of these men were high in the Catholic Church and they both say demon worship, murder, homosexuality, etc. are normal activities, not the anomaly but the norm, also in the Catholic Church, and you will be excommunicated, kicked out for exposing once someone rapes a child, but for actually raping a child you will not be excommunicated, just move to a different location. We are not going to get deep into it here, but I will briefly touch on this religion now. This next part is messed up, but remember this: Ephesians 5:11 have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather expose them. These are just facts that prove the reality of this evil. If you look the word sodomite, sodomite, one who practices sodomy. Sodomy, the homosexual proclivities of the men of the city in Gen 19:111. 13c. Anal or oral copulation with a member of the same or opposite sex. Also, copulation with an animal. Merriam-Webster's Kayjet Dictionary. 11th ed. Now if you look it up in Strong's Bible Concordance and Dictionary. Sodomite. OT:6945 K-. From OT:6942. Up. Quasi. Sacred person. That is, technically, of, male, devotee, by prostitution, to licentious idolatry. KJV. sodomite, unclean. New Exhaustive Strong's Numbers in concordance with Expanded Greek Hebrew Dictionary. What? A sacred person devoted to sodomy. Yes, this was their religion. They call this practice holy. In reality, this act and holiness have nothing in common, as they are exact opposites. However, wicked people twist everything into filth. Notice its root word is 6942. We are going to look up the word holy and see it has the same root. Holy. OT:6940 for Kodesh. Kodesh. From OT:6942. A sacred place or thing. Rarely abstract. Sanctity. KJV. Consecrated. Thing. Dedicated. Thing. Hallowed. Thing. Holiness. Ex most. Holy. Ex day. Portion. Thing. Saint. Sanctuary. New Exhaustive Strong's Numbers in concordance with Expanded Greek Hebrew Dictionary. Root word for sodomite and holy. OT:6942 Kadash. Kodash. A primitive root. To be. Causatively. Make. Pronounce or observe as. Clean. Ceremonially or morally. KJV. Appoint. Bid. Consecrate. Dedicate. Defile. Hallow. Be. Keep. Holy. Place. Keep. Prepare. Proclaim. Purify. Sanctify. I.e. oneself. Holy. New Exhaustive Strong's Numbers in concordance with Expanded Greek Hebrew Dictionary. Read the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, which there is archaeological proof that it really happened, and you will see that this disgusting act was literally part of their religion. So when you hear all these Catholic priests raping little boys and the Catholic elite hiring homosexual prostitutes, it is not an isolated incident. It is their religion. They have also carried all their other demonic forms of religion from Canaan, Babylon, and Egypt with them also. All of these are condemned in the Holy Scriptures. Queen of Heaven worship Jeremiah 7:18, Sun worship Ezekiel 8:16, Easter Queen of Heaven idolatry Exodus 20:4, Christmas Jeremiah 10:1-6. Notice the identical pillars in Rome and Egypt. These pillars come from Babylon and are the pillars of Baal worship. Baal is the sun god whose holy day is Sunday. Papal power acknowledges this act. What power has claimed authority to change God's law? The papacy. Note the Pope is of so great authority and power that he can modify, explain, or interpret even divine laws. The Pope can modify divine law, since his power is not of man, but of God. And he acts as vicegerent of God upon earth. Translated from Lucius Ferreras. Prompta Bibliotheca, Ready Library, Papa, Article 2. What part of the law of God has the papacy thought to change? The fourth commandment. Note, they the Catholics, allege the change of the Sabbath into the Lord's Day, contrary, as it seemeth to the Decalogue. And they have no example more in their mouths than the change of the Sabbath. They will needs have the Church's power to be very great, because it hath dispensed with the precept of the Decalogue. The Augsburg Confession, Lutheran. Part 2 Art 7, in Philip Schaff, The Creeds of Christendom, Harper, Volume 3, page 64. The Roman Catholic Church reversed the fourth commandment by doing away with the Sabbath of God's Word, and instituting Sunday as a holiday. N. Somervell, History of the Christian Church, 1873, page 415. Daniel 7:25. And he will speak great words against Yahweh, and will wear out, mentally attack to cause to fall away, the saints of Yahweh, and think to change times and laws. And they will be given into his hand until time, and times, and the dividing of time. This false change was enacted by Emperor Constantine in 325 AD at the Council of Nicaea, and accepted by nearly the whole Judeo-Christian world today. Regardless, if you keep Sunday, the day of the sun, Sol Invictus Mithra, you are doing it on the authority of the Pope, the authority of some lying preacher, or your own authority. None of which come from Yahweh, Yahshua, not even any one of the apostles. They all kept Sabbath, which is clearly written in your scriptures. Revelation 6:2 He who sat on it had a bow and he went out conquering and to conquer. This information is from a Catholic website called New Advent. Labarum is the name by which the military standard adopted by Constantine the Great after his celebrated vision was known in antiquity. The original Labarum design under the emperor's direction on the day subsequent to the appearance of the Cross of Light is described by Eusebius as a long spear overlaid with gold which with the transverse bar formed the figure of a cross. On the top of the wall was fixed a wreath of gold and precious stones, and within this the symbol of the Saviour's name, 2 letters indicating the name of Christ by means of the initial letters. The letter acts intersection P at the center. These 2 letters formed what is known as the monogram of Constantine, so called not because it was the invention of this emperor, for it had been a familiar Christian symbol prior to his conversion, but because of the great popularity and enjoyed from the date of its appearance on the imperial standards. From the crossbar of the spear was suspended a purple banner with the Greek inscription "Conquer" by this sign. This information is also from a Catholic website called Mary of Nazareth, Her Mystery, Her Museum, Her Site, A Moment with Mary. Under this sign you shall conquer. Constantine climbed to a high point and considered with perplexity the superiority of his adversaries when under the midday sun an immense cross made of stars appeared in the sky. These words were written in Greek around the cross: under this sign you shall conquer. On the left side of the page we see the mother and child worship from the times of Egypt to the Middle Ages to modern times. It actually goes before that all the way back to Babylon. The mother and child depicted as 2 of the 3 deities of the Trinity in Egypt, the mother being Isis and the son being Set, and in Babylon the mother being Semiramis and the son being Baal. On the right you will see the pagan worship idol of the Catholic Church, a memorial of Constantine's vision. It has the sign in which he was to conquer and IHS, which means Isis Horus Set. The Holy Roman Catholic Empire is estimated to have killed 50 million to 1 million people. Caesar, Constantine, Pope, it was all the same. Since Constantine had converted, he didn't convert. He killed all that disagreed, then changed a religion to his religion he already followed. He changed the Sabbath and changed Yahweh's feast days, and if you kept what the scriptures said, you were killed. They even killed people who owned the Holy Scriptures. Owning them was a crime. Study history. All this is common knowledge. Yet most people still follow, and teach, as proper, the doctrines this beast implemented which are against Scripture. 50 million to 1 million people killed.
Searching catacombs. 4 centuries of death on display.
I warn you, don't go down there.
Ci accorgiamo che normalmente le
We have noticed that everyone who comes here leaves changed forever.
è diverso da quello con cui si entra.
Those are real bodies.
The bodies of over 8,000 souls line the corridors of the catacombs. The corpses were carefully organized by class, gender, and age.
The Gothic Church of All Saints in the district of Sedlec. Here, the remains of about 40,000 people grace the walls, ceilings and floors in a stunning interpretation of do-it-yourself home decorating.
V té jedné pyramidě by mělo být kosti asi z 10 000 lidí.
And I looked, and behold, a white horse. He who sat on it had a bow, and a crown was given to him, and he went out conquering and to conquer. Another horse, fiery red, went out, and it was granted to the one who sat on it to take peace from the earth, and that people should kill one another. And there was given to him a great sword. Red horse in action. This is the number, in millions these countries have killed, not including major wars. If you include major wars, you have 350 plus million dead in a little over 100 years. Red China 76.7 million killed, Communist Russia 61.9 million killed, England and the United States 50 million killed, Nazi Germany 20.9 million killed, Imperial Japan 5.9 million killed, Cambodia 2 million killed, Turkey 1.8 million killed, Vietnam 1.6 million killed, Poland 1.5 million killed, Yugoslavia 1 million killed, North Korea 1.6 million killed, and again these numbers do not include major wars.
Of all the real proven threats to humanity, none of them have killed as many people as government itself. In academia, it's known as democide. But notice, you've probably never heard that, even if you went to college. And you've certainly never seen it on the news. No, you never hear about democide. And it's proven, it's on record, that governments have killed over 260 million people. It's a giant number. So big that it's even hard to grasp. That is the #1 cause of unnatural death in the 20th and now 21st century. To put democide into perspective, it would take 10 sports stadiums, jam-packed with 100,000 people apiece, to represent 1 million souls. China, from 1949 to 1987, the Communist Party killed 76+ million people. And they even admit it. They're proud of it. The USSR, from 1917 to 1987, killed over 61 million people. Combined Western colonialism killed over 50 million people. Germany, under Hitler, from 1933 to 1945, killed more than 20 million people total, including their own population. Japan, during its imperial orgy, from 1936 to 1945, killed 5+ million people. Before Mao even got into power, from 1923 to 1948, they killed right around 3.5 million. And good old Pol Pot in Cambodia, funded by the U.S. government and Zbigniew Brzezinski, from 1975 to 1979, killed around 30% of his population, 2 million. Turkey, during their genocide of the Armenians, 1.8 million. Vietnam, 1.67 million. Poland, 1.585 million. Pakistan, 1.5+ million. Yugoslavia under Tito, 1,072,000. And the mega murder just continues. North Korea, 1.663 million. Mexico, 1,417,000. Russia, before the communists even got in, killed over 1 million. And it just goes on and on and on. For a whopping conservative total of 262 million. Governments winning the war against humanity. And let me just be clear. That's governments killing unarmed civilians. That doesn't even count military casualties. If you add those in, it's well over 350 million. So democide, or death by government, is the #1 threat because it's already been carried out many, many times. And governments all over the world are engaging in mass murder right now. And our own government, under the National Defense Authorization Act, is openly stating that they will kill U.S. citizens, secretly arrest U.S. citizens, and have us disappear into secret prisons and black holes.
Pictures do not make one understand the reality of what happened in these places, and no, you cannot imagine what it was like. Just remember this, that if you see your country making draconian laws that are the base of tyrannical government, you need to try to stop it and prepare spiritually, physically and mentally. Matthew 24:21-22, for then will be great tribulation, such as has not come to pass since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever will be. And unless those days were shortened, there would no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days will be shortened. And we will be here if this happens in our lifetime. Nobody is raptured until the Messiah returns, and he only returns once. 1 Corinthians 15:51-52. Behold, I show you a secret truth. We will not all sleep, but we will all be changed, in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trumpet. For the trumpet will sound, and the dead will be raised incorruptible, and we will be changed. The pre-tribulation doctrine is a lie, so people won't fight the New World Order because the idea of, I won't be here so I don't care, or whatever someone thinks. Another horse, fiery red, went out. And it was granted to the one who sat on it to take peace from the earth, and that people should kill one another. And there was given to him a great sword,